Propulsion Engineer, for accepting the invitation and proceeding over this seminar on advancement and careers in a space industry. The webinar was organized and conducted by Wings of Aero for the science and engineering students to gain insight and information that would remain effective in their research and projects. I will give the session to Mr. Samarth Patel. Thank you, sir.
Yes. So, hello all. Good afternoon to everyone. I would first start off by thanking the authority of Wings of Aero for inviting me. I would also like to thank the organizers of the webinar especially. So before I take you through a presentation, I would first like to have a very casual conversation that why this topic and why not something else. So first, let us understand that the term space sector that involves space science and space technology as a whole. It is one such field that unites people. It is one such field that brings people from various backgrounds together because it requires expertise from so many fields of knowledge or say science that people from various backgrounds have to join hands and then work forward for the collaborative effort. Now, this is the reason why the space sector is not restricted to any particular field. If you are from aeronautical, if you are from aerospace, if you are from mechanical, if you are from basic science background, BSc, physics, mathematics, or even biology for that matter, space sector has the foundation to provide you the base for your knowledge and your understanding to be applied into practical world. So that is why it is important to understand how people from various fields can even join hands, can even contribute in the whole progress of nation as well as the mankind. So I'll take you through a presentation which will first conclude about the achievements and the evolution of the whole space sector of various countries of even mankind, while the other half will always try to make you understand what your role can be, how you can contribute. So that would be about the careers in space industry. So on that note, I would start the screen sharing through which I'll take you through a presentation. So the name of the presentation here says that it is space stories, because I would like to keep it as interesting and as fun so that you would remember it after some years, or you would remember it now also, to look upon it as a method or as an approach to how to build your career in space industry. So first, before starting this session, let me first introduce you to some of the fundamentals of Indian Space Society. So what we do is necessary to know that we primarily train passionate, curious minds to believe in themselves, because that is, we believe, the most fundamental thing to have in an individual. Then because you have developed that belief that you can do something, you can achieve some expertise, then you need some guidance on your particular subjects that you are interested in. So we provide that guidance, and along with that, with your performance, we wish to help you with your further research. And that is all that we do. And we do it with the help of online courses, seminars, webinars, workshops, internships, and much more. So first, let me take you through a topical guideline of how I will proceed in the session. The first point here says that we'll look into the history of space exploration. We'll typically look into some very first achievements of mankind, the first achievements of how we developed the first telescope, how the first human being was sent into space, such kind of things. Then we'll look into the evolution of space exploration as to see and understand how far we have come from the first achievements. Then we'll look into some innovative advances, very precisely telescope technology and spacesuit technology, which are trending research topics right now. because the efficiency of the space mission depends very much on these two. Then we'll look into some benefits of space missions of which we are not unaware of. We all are aware of the facilities and the easiness that has brought to our lives by the advancement of technology. So hence we'll look into some benefits, and those benefits will prove to be the reason of motivation in ourselves to understand how and why is it necessary for us to contribute in that sector. And the last one would be the careers in space industry, and that will guide you, will give you an approach to how to move forward with your career, how to make your own career with respect to your particular field of interest, and how to relate it to space sector. So in 1930s and 1940s, Nazi Germany saw the possibilities of using long distance rockets as weapons. Late in World War II, London was attacked by 200-mile range V2 missiles at more than 3,500 miles per hour. So that is the V2 rocket that Nazi Germany used. Now looking at this accomplishment, which was very destructive in its nature, Russia and America thought to use it for the constructive idea. Hence, in October 4, 1957, the Soviets launched the first artificial satellite called Sputnik 1 into space. And you would be aware of the first human space flight, which was just after 4 years of the launch of Sputnik 1, that is in 1961. Russian Lieutenant Yuri Gagarin was the first human being in space. While after 1957's Sputnik's launch, in 1958, US satellite Explorer 1 went into orbit. And after 3 years of that, in 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American to fly into space. The first telescope was said to be invented in 1608 in Netherlands by an eyeglass maker called Hans Lippershey. Now this is believed to be. We do not have any proof of that, but it is said that he was the one, he was the pioneer of it. While second thing mentioned here is Observatory 2, and that is the first space telescope launched on 7 December 1968. As of 2nd February 2019, there are 3,891 confirmed exoplanets discovered, while the Milky Way is estimated to contain 100 to 400 billion stars and more than 100 billion planets. Now, Salyut 1 was the first space station, and that was the accomplishment of Soviet Union. And the Salyut program was followed with 5 more successful launches, of which was one of the part has been attached to the International Space Station. One thing important to remember about the Salyut 1 space station is that Soyuz 10 and Soyuz 11, these were the 2 capsules in which astronauts came to the station in space to do some research and experiments. But the hard docking of Soyuz 10 capsule failed and the crew had to abort the mission. While the hard docking of Soyuz 11 capsule was successful, and they performed experiments and research for 23 days in the Salyut 1 space station. However, they were killed by asphyxia because by a failure of a valve just prior to Earth re-entry. So the astronauts were successful in their experiments and research in docking also, but during the undocking procedure, it was unfortunate to receive the dead bodies of the astronauts in the capsule. So that is one of the rarest of the rare accidents that have happened, which have killed astronauts. So, and that is, we are right now sure that the organizations which now conduct manned missions, they are very much careful. The whole system and the whole technology has been very much improved in terms of safety. So as I mentioned, Vostok 1 was the name of the flight of Yuri Gagarin. He was the first successful human being to have the space flight. His flight lasted 108 minutes. And one important thing to notice is his landing was not as usual as it is nowadays. So Gagarin parachuted himself to the ground separately from his capsule after ejecting himself at 7-kilometer altitude. This is a very animated image of his flight Vostok 1. Now, since we have touched upon the topics of the very first achievements, let us see how far we have come. There are some international endeavors here and some Indian as well. The first one is Hubble Space Telescope, then Apollo 11, and the International Space Station. Now, these three are the achievements of mankind. People who are not even remotely connected to space sector may be aware of these achievements. These achievements are that huge. So that we'll look upon, and we'll look upon some Indian achievements also, which are especially important for us being Indians to celebrate that the first satellite communication was done by Aryabhat satellite, Chandrayaan 1, which was a successful mission, Mars orbiter mission, which was one of the mission that put India fourth between the other space community. While Chandrayaan 2, I'll be saying that it was a very successful failure because we learned a lot of things from it. While Gaganyaan is an upcoming project of ISRO that is supposed to be taking astronauts, a manned mission. So Hubble, the observatory, is the first major optical telescope to be placed in space, the ultimate mountaintop. Above the distortion of atmosphere, far above rain clouds and light pollution, Hubble has an unobstructed view of the universe. Now, scientists have used Hubble to observe the most distant stars and galaxies. It was launched in 1990 and it has marked the most significant advance in astronomy since Galileo's telescope. There were 5 servicing missions to Hubble Space Telescope because the adjustment of the lens was a little tricky. Hence, 5 servicing missions and more than 30 years of operation now. Our view of the universe and our place has never been the same. Now, Hubble has made more than 1.3 million observations since its mission began in 1990. So, with that much huge amount of observations, more than 15,000 scientific papers have been published using Hubble data, making it one of the most productive scientific instruments ever built. Now we'll look upon some of the very famous discoveries by Hubble Space Telescope. There are numerous, but we'll just touch upon the first 3. So okay, first, right. Now the first one is the Eagle Nebula. It was discovered in 1995. Hubble took the famous photo, which was later named as Pillars of Creation. In 2008, the second image says that it is Fomalhaut B. That is the first picture, the first visual image of an exoplanet. While in 2013, Hubble was used to determine for the first time the true color of a planet orbiting another star and found water vapor erupting off the surface of Jupiter's moon Europa. Now, Apollo 11, as we all know, President John F. Kennedy in 1961 declared that at the end of the decade we'll be touching the surface of moon, which happened in 1969. The date was 20th July. While International Space Station is a research laboratory in low Earth orbit, with many different partners contributing to its design and construction, this high-flying laboratory has become a symbol of cooperation in space exploration. With former competitors, mind you, with former competitors now working together. That is why it is one such field, it is one such sector that unites people. Other than that, you cannot be competitors and then achieve success. You all need to join hands. That is the situation right now. Now, India's first communication satellite, Aryabhat, that was transported on a bullock cart because at that time we were not having that much of technology for transportation of satellites. while Cartosat 2B and India's world record of 104 satellites. So it was one of the achievement of India which made our position very clear in the space community, in the whole space community of the world, including the biggest players, namely NASA or European Space Agency, and much more. Chandrayaan 1, a very successful mission, Mars orbiter mission, which India holds the record to be the first country to achieve success in its first attempt, while Chandrayaan 2, which gave us a lot to learn. Now we'll look into some innovations, as I mentioned, that we'll see precisely the telescope technology and the spacesuit technology. Now, James Webb Space Telescope is similar to Hubble Space Telescope in just one aspect, that it is a space telescope. It has to be placed into space in some orbit. The main key difference is that Hubble Space Telescope works in the visible spectrum of light, while James Webb Space Telescope will work in the infrared spectrum of light. The main aim of the telescope is, the main aim of the James Webb Telescope is to search for light from the first stars and galaxies. Now, this means that we need to look the farthest in the universe. More far we can observe things, more far we can see, the more back in time we go, because light takes times to travel. So the light that is reaching us right now has been evolved, has been emitted from the object a long time ago. So that is how we look back in time, by looking at the most distant celestial bodies. So that is the aim of James Webb Space Telescope. Now it will be located near the second Lagrange point of the Earth Sun system, from Earth directly opposite to Sun. Now normally an object circling the Sun farther out than Earth would take longer than 1 year to complete its orbit. But if you are at near the L2 point, the combined gravitational pull of Earth and Sun allow a spacecraft to orbit the Sun in the same time it takes the Earth. That is the benefit of the Lagrange point. Now this is the smart suit technology. It is designed for majorly for Mars and other planetary missions. But we know right now that the only planetary mission that we are looking at and we are planning for is on Mars. Now, instead of being a passive pressurized gas bag, this technology uses soft robot technology and a soft stretchable skin that is self-healing and incorporates embedded sensors. That sensors would collect the data and display environmental and membrane structural information to the astronaut. Now, when we say the need to explore, then I should say it is the very core nature of a human being to have a curiosity to know where he came from, what was before the existence of the universe or the existence of life. So that curiosity drives us. That curiosity is the motivation to explore. There are some benefits of space mission mentioned here, but they are not limited to these. Some of the notable are solar panels, implantable heart monitors, lightweight materials. Now, composite materials is a big industry right now, because all the fighter aircrafts, even domestic aircrafts, those use composite material to reduce weight and to increase strength. While improved computing systems, we all are aware about computational fluid dynamics, the whole simulation industry. So it has given us a new approach, a new understanding of how to efficiently look at things and then design it accordingly. Now, there are some important things to notice about your contribution to the space industry. So how you can make your career into the space industry, or if you have already began on making your career into some different field, but you are interested in space sector, then how you can relate to it. So the left corner says that we'll look into the introduction with 4 basic questions, of which I'll answer And I'm sure that with my answers, you will have more detailed questions which will be answered even after that. So, first of all, why to study space science or space technology? So, if you have been a problem solver, if you have a creative mindset, then this sector is for you. Because the most, if I want to break the complex thing into some simple terms, I would say you have a set of resources and you have a set of problems. Now, the sole job is to efficiently use that resource to solve those problems. Hence, you need to be a good problem solver. Hence, you need to be patient enough. Hence, you need to use your creativity to bring efficiency into that problem solving. Now, there is one misconception that all the people who are working in the space sector are especially space scientists. And this is not correct, because people are drawn from the ranks of engineers, mathematicians, information technologists, and so much more various backgrounds come into picture when we talk about space sector. So if you want to prepare for your space career, these are some very fundamental concepts which are taught in elementary school. So you need to be sound in those concepts. You need to have good grip in these concepts, because these are the one that will ultimately matter. If you are engineer, if you are a scientist, these are the concepts that are needed at the very grassroots level. Some of them are algebra, calculus, computer mathematics, geometry, physics, trigonometry, the very basic ones. Now, if you ask me what is the education needed just after high school, then you would at least need a bachelor's degree, maybe in pure science or in technology. That would be BSc or BTech. That is the least requirement. Even after that, if you want to go for a detailed study, then you can apply and get enrolled into a master's program, which will clear your concepts and give you a detailed understanding of a particular set of concepts. While even after that, if you want to go for specialization and expertise into one such field, then you can opt for enrollment in a PhD program, that is to earn a doctorate. The bachelor's would be near about 3 to 4 years of college. Master's would be 2 years, while a PhD program is up to 4 years, 4 to 5 years. Now, this is one important thing to discuss, because people are not aware about the difference between space science and space technology. So right now, I will make it very clear how these both are very separate from each other, but intertwined. So space science, as the term suggests, it is pure science. Science is about the nature. It is the study of natural phenomena, the physical phenomena. We do not invent something in science, because if we are studying something which is already in nature, we are not inventing something, we are just discovering it. We are finding it out. We are solving our ignorance to certain things. So that is science. When we see something, when we observe something, and then we understand it, that this thing has been occurring in such separate situations, then this must be a certain physical law. So these things accumulate into science. So space science is all about scientific disciplines that involve space exploration and the study of the natural phenomena, the physical bodies. While space technology uses that science, uses that knowledge to invent something, to create something, to ease up the human life. For example, if we talk about the second law of Newton, second law of Newton's motion, then force is equal to mass into acceleration. It is eventually all about momentum change. That knowledge brought us the understanding that the force applied on a set of fluid or a working material can develop the change in momentum. And that is how our vehicles were produced. So that was to ease up human life. Hence, there is a difference between science, that is completely knowledge, while technology, that is the application of that knowledge. Now, to differentiate or to categorize space science, there are three. First, we'll look into space science and then into space technology. Three broad categories are physics, chemistry, and biology. We'll look into each one separately. So the first one is physics. Now, physics is crucial to understanding the world around us, inside us, and the world beyond us. It is the most basic and fundamental of all sciences, always challenging our imaginations, exciting us, and leading to great discoveries. Now, discoveries from healing joints to curing cancer to developing sustainable energy solutions, everything falls under physics. Now, physics takes into account the entire universe from the largest galaxies to the smallest subatomic particles, the particles which we cannot even observe under microscope even. It is the basis of all science. So physics can be called the foundation of all the sciences. Now there are three categories mentioned here under physics. The first one is astronomy. Now if whenever I talk about astronomy, I just feel that who hasn't felt a sense of awe while looking deep into sky. So astronomy is the science that seeks to explain everything that we observe in the universe, from comets to planets to distant galaxies. Everything that can be and that is observed in the universe is astronomy. By studying the cosmos beyond our own planet, we can understand where we came from, where we are going, and how physics work under conditions which are impossible to recreate on Earth, like the Big Bang conditions. It was a point singularity of infinite density and infinite temperature. We cannot recreate that. That is why it is important to observe the universe. While plasma physics is interesting in a way because we live on a land of ordinary matter, while we are familiar with three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. But plasma is the least known, probably because plasma, in spite of being the most abundant form of matter in the universe, doesn't occur so freely here on Earth. That is why we are not aware about the functionality of plasma. But plasma exhibits complex and rich physics phenomena, including waves, turbulence, and interactions. Now, studying plasma is very critical to advancing our technology for practical purposes, as well as developing functional fusion reactors. That is the most important thing. And to understand the processes in stars, planets, interstellar space, and even more. So that is why we vote for plasma physics to be, a topic of research to be in trend. Well, the last category of physics would be particle physics, and it is important branch because that has made it possible to build a picture of what matter is and how it works. It allows us to address issues such as what is the world made of, what holds the world together. So that is, those questions are answered only by particle physics. It has made it possible for us to understand the universe at its most fundamental level. That is why it is named particle physics. Now, if you may not be aware of this thing, but particle physics is the physics that has been the foundation for MRIs and PET scans that allows a doctor to look inside the human body to see what's wrong. Now, this is just a fascinating concept to bring in. It is all about time travel. And we know that humans can't jump into a time machine and go back and forth in time, right? But we know that the clocks of satellite and aircrafts travel at a different speed than those on Earth. So space telescopes from NASA offers us a way to look back in time. That is what I mentioned earlier. Telescopes allow us to see the stars and galaxies that are far away. Because it takes a long time for the light to reach us, we can calculate the speed of light, and then we can eventually conclude how far the object is, how it would have been in the past. So by this, we can see what has been happening in the universe in the past. but it doesn't mean that we have the technology to go back and forth in time. So theory says that faster you travel in space, the slower you will move through time. But there is no such practical technology or practical possibility to hold it to be true. It is just on a theoretical basis. Now, the second broad category of space science is chemistry, and it is one such fascinating field of research because it is so fundamental to our world. Chemistry is essential to meet our basic needs for food, clothing, shelter, health, energy, clean water, clean air, soil. So it is the microscopic or the molecular level of study. Now, biology is divided into again three such categories, and that are namely astrobiology, astrobotany, and bioastronautics. So if you love to learn about living things and about how they relate, then studying biology might be the right fit for you. So according to the definition of NASA, astrobiology is defined as the study of nature, evolution, distribution, and future of life in universe. To break into simple terms, it says that it is the study of life in the universe, both on and off Earth. It combines the quest for the habitable conditions in the solar system also. While the second one is about astrobotany, and astrobotany is all about growing crops and maintaining a sustainable environment in a space mission, because we cannot carry all the food and all the water along with us in an interplanetary space mission. So the crops grown so far in space have been found to have somewhat different taste than their terrestrial counterparts. So what makes astrobotany an extremely important area of research is that in future, a regenerative life support system will be crucial part of the human spaceflight expeditions. Because if you want to travel far into space, then you cannot carry everything with you. So for that particular reason, you need to have the technology to grow food and your other necessary sustainable edible things in the space mission itself, in the capsule itself. While the last one is bioastronautics, and bioastronautics is all about the astronaut's health. So an astronaut who travels far from Earth for long periods of time is affected by weightlessness, space radiation, or even psychological discomfort, and he or she is entirely dependent on the artificial life support system. Hence, it is the challenge of bioastronautics to protect the astronaut during and after long journeys, and to include air, water, food, and telemedicine when resolving the technical problems of gravitational biology. So, bioastronautics combines the biological, behavioral, and medical elements that govern humans and other living species in space travel. That is why bioastronautics is very much important for the healthy survival of the astronauts in a space mission. Now, just as we saw time travel, there is another fascinating concept called SETI. It is name of a non-profit organization, and the name is Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Now, although extraterrestrial life has yet to be confirmed, scientists have worked to answer the questions like, are we alone in the universe? Are there advanced civilizations that we can detect? Or how can we get better odds to meet some extraterrestrial intelligent life? But we have no such profit or no such luck into finding out, because we are left out with nothing when we do some research like finding some extraterrestrial intelligent life, because we haven't found anything yet. But SETI is one such organization that tries to find something with different set of technological instruments, and if you are interested, you can even join it one day. There are certain other interesting fields also. Those are namely earth science, atmospheric science, aeronomy, climatology, and much more. While you can not join your your present career into space sector with some technical terms, you can even go for the media industry, where you can explore and portray your love for cosmos into some digital films. Now, since we have seen what space science is and what different departments and what different categories space science has, let us look at the engineering domain of space sector, that is the space technology. Now, what could you work on if you are an engineer in space technology? So you can work on satellites, probes, rockets, spaceships, space stations, even ground equipment that communicates with the other space capsules or international space station or with satellites. Or even nowadays, the robotic technology is in the trend for research, computer programs, everything is going into the digital mode. So hence that whole sector is now very much active. So you could do anything out of these and not restricted to these. Even there are a lot more opportunities other than these. So to become an engineer in the space sector, you will require at least a bachelor's degree, namely BTech, then maybe a master's degree called MS or MTech, and then a PhD if you want it. While the programs of study are not restricted to aerospace or astrophysics, because it requires people from various backgrounds. So you may be from chemical, computer science, electrical, electronics, mechanical, software engineer. All the people from all the backgrounds are invited. If you have the expertise to contribute something from your field, from your department, that could eventually help to resolve some problem or to find out some new discovery or some invention. Now, to look at the skills of an engineer, let me give you a very typical example of how problems are put forth and how they are solved. So let us address one problem, that sending a probe to an asteroid takes a lot of fuel. So we need to use less fuel and then to send the probe to an asteroid. This is the problem. Now this problem is solved by using a trajectory that uses planet's gravity to propel the probe, that is called the slingshot. So that solution is the foundation of being an engineer. While if I want to put forward another example, it would be, suppose there are extreme temperatures in space that damages electronic equipment. Now what will you do? This is the problem. Now the solution is to find or create materials that can withstand the extreme temperatures, right? And maybe even if you want to relate to a very recent problem, then it would be operating a rover on Mars is very difficult because of the 15-minute communication delay. Now, to solve this, what these engineers and the scientists have done is that they have built an artificial intelligence system so that the rover can work on Mars autonomously. So this is how you think about problems. This is how you see what resources you have and how to use it efficiently. That are the skills of engineer, namely analytical skills, business skills, critical, math skills are important. Problem solving should be in your blood. While writing skills is the last but the most important, because once you do some research, once you contribute something new to the body of knowledge, then it has to be published, it has to be brought to the public domain for other aspirants, for other amateur researchers to use that data to see how research is being done. So you need to write scientific papers once you do something great. Now we'll see, this is the last segment, and we'll see about the field of work, whatever roles and responsibilities are provided to the member who is from separate departments. Namely, if we want to talk about aerospace, then aerospace is a combined course that takes into account several basic concepts along with some software skills and some electrical skills also. So for aerospace, structural design, telemetry and communication, instrumentation, orbital parameters are important, while material selection and propulsion are a big part of being an aerospace engineer. Propulsion, structures, and aerodynamics. Also avionics. These four are a major part of aerospace engineering. So aerospace engineers or spacecraft engineers mainly design, build, test, maintain, and repair the spacecraft as well as related equipments and systems. So that is all about aerospace engineers. While computer engineers design and develop computer systems used in spacecraft. So to meet with specific project objectives, computer engineers may also design and implement a system for which they even develop the hardware like field programmable gate arrays or say microcontrollers. While the software engineers more focus on designing, developing, and testing the software used in a space mission. This includes software on ground stations for monitoring and commanding spacecraft, as well as software on orbiting satellites for telemetry and communication purposes. Then, electrical engineers are called to design electrical sets for spacecraft. To that end, they may even update system and application software. While it is very important to see that the electrical engineers are careful in their work, because the least possible way a space mission or a spacecraft or a satellite can catch fire is because of failure of electrical instruments. So that is why it has been important ever since for electrical engineers and electronics engineers to do their work very carefully. So electronic engineers in space industry design electronic control equipment used in many areas, including automation and telecommunication. So the last four departments say that for materials, engineers specialize in determining which materials are best suited for the harsh environment of space. So many of them may hold a degree in mechanical or materials engineering. So they work on the production, processing, development, and design of modern materials for space missions, while they also conduct research to find the best combination of materials. That is the new technology now to protect spacecraft from the cold, heat, and intense rays in space. To give you a practical example, the space shuttle was covered with ceramic tiles that were heat resistant and protected the shuttle upon re-entry into Earth's atmosphere to protect the spacecraft from the friction of the atmosphere. For that, ceramic tiles were used. So that is the job of materials engineering. Avionics and instrumentation engineers specialize in design, development, manufacture, and testing of electronic systems. Example, printed circuit boards, microprocessors, and sensors. While robotics is an important field right now, because we do not want our astronauts to go out into space in some dangerous environment to do some repairs. Hence, we want robotic arms or even complete full-fledged robots to do that job. While the last one would be telecommunications, and that is important because we need communication between the satellites, between the space capsules and the ground station. Other than that, it is not at all beneficial for us for a space mission to accomplish, because if we cannot receive data, if we cannot send data, then the mission is to be a complete failure. That is why telecommunication is important to achieve. This is the end of the webinar. I thank you all to be in this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Students, anyone have a doubt? Students, anyone have a doubt?
I would be
I think
happy to
no.
entertain any questions if they can shoot at me.
So I think no one have any doubts, sir. Yes, sir. So thank you, Mr. Samarth Patel. That is wonderful session. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and concepts, sir. Thank you. So can we end the session, sir?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Students, everyone can get a certification after finishing your lecture feedback. Thank you.